Alright guys, what is happening? How are we doing today? The Patriotic Gringo coming at you with a great story today. Basically, I'm about to leave Central America. I've been down here about 5 months, and as I'm leaving, I guess I can put this out here because before I post this, I'll be back in the States, but I entered illegally. Now, I didn't enter every country illegally, but I did enter Nicaragua illegally. And the reason that I did this, well, let me explain. With the COVID lockdowns, things have got much more difficult to travel. And because of that, I was able to fly into Honduras, which I'll just pull up a quick map here. I flew into San Pedro Sula for like $100. It was still very reasonable. The only way I could get into Nicaragua was like a $650 charter flight. So me being so wise, I thought it would be better to fly in here and hey, I got a few days, whatever, I'll come down and just get down there. It's not super far. You can do it in a day or two. It's a little hectic, but so I went to San Pedro Sula when I got in September. I did have a COVID test, but it's just a standard United States COVID test. Nicaragua requires a PCR test, which is like a specific test. Don't tell me the difference. I've taken both tests and they do the same nose thing. I think it just tests for a little bit different symptoms or who knows. I really don't know, to be honest. But anyways, I wasn't able to get into Nicaragua. So what I did is I came in here to San Pedro Sula, came down here to Tegucigalpa for a day. I wanted to kind of see the capital. That was cool. Then I came down here to a city, Choloteca. You can't see it on the map. Slept there, and in the morning, I decided to go across this border somewhere in this vicinity here. I actually pulled up a few pictures of the border and such. So you can see it's not super, there's no super system behind it. And what ended up happening is there's like a little river on the side here. And if you look over the bridge that connects the countries, you can just see people are going back and forth. I mean, they're local Nica people. A lot of it's horses. There's a few rafting things. The river's not super deep. So, anyways, I try to go into Nicaragua. They turn me around, say I have to go back here to the capital to take a PCR test before I'm able to enter into Nicaragua. Now, I've already been traveling at this point for like 3-4 days. And my girlfriend is actually waiting over here to pick me up on the Nicaraguan border side. So me not knowing what to do, I call her on my phone or text her, and I say basically, babe, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck on the Honduras side. They're not letting me in without the right test. I don't have the right test. Even though I did have a COVID test, it just wasn't a PCR like doctor sign. I don't even know where you get a doctor to sign a COVID test in the United States. But regardless, I didn't have one. And she's like, I'm going to send a horse. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to? She's like, send me a picture of a guy. She's like, where are you? He's going to come meet you, and he's going to send you a horse to go into the country. So we're going to go through the river and go around the whole immigration. Which, at the time, I'm tired. I just want to see her. I'm like, yo, I've been traveling. Like, whatever we have to do, let's just get this done. So as we're at this border, I'm basically going through. Let me see if there's any pictures of the river. I don't see any, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of borders between the two countries. This was just a main one for the highway system, Nica 12, and then I forget what it calls once it goes into Honduras. But, so she sends me this horse, and I basically go across. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the most comfortable way to get into a country. And I'm just kind of like, whatever, I'm here, I'm with her. I really could care less what happens from here. So I stay in the country for 5 months. I don't want to go back to the States. I have no desire to be leaving. I have no desire to deal with my illegal status. I still don't know what I'm going to do. It really kind of bothered me the whole time I was there because I didn't know how to approach this now that I was here illegally. Obviously, when I return, or if I were to fly out of Managua or Nicaragua, they're going to know that I never came into the country legally and like, whoa, dude, why are you here? Why haven't you never checked out or checked in? So I decide I'm going to go back to the border. We talked to a few of her friends and some lawyers and stuff, and they're basically like, yeah, you got to go back to the border and check in and deal with immigration. You might even have to pay some like fees because of, social health and how you might have, even though I did have a COVID test, don't get me wrong, it just wasn't the specific one. So anyways, I do get in. We go to Chinandega. We stay in Leon for a month. We stay in Managua for a month. We stay in San Juan del Sur for a month. Um, I'm trying to think where else did we stay, and then I think we went back and stayed in Leon for the rest of the time, more or less. I mean, we went to Las Bonitas and we went to Lake Apoyo and we did all these other things closer to these cities and such. But basically, my 5 months are up to make a long story of traveling throughout the country, just living life, renting a place for a couple $100 every month. And here's one thing too: if you've ever been to Central America, they have a lot of these almost like military checkpoints where they will just stop any vehicles that are in the country, whether you're in a bus, whether you're in a shuttle or a car. It does not matter. Like, they have the right, and this is different in the U.S. You can't really do this. You don't really see these checkpoints where the military will, or the police, national police, will basically, pull everyone out of the car and say, "Where's your ID?" I mean, if you're a foreigner, extraño, you need to have your passport with you at pretty much all times. I mean, if you don't have your passport, you're running with fire, because they could send you back to the embassy, or they could, incarcerate you, whatever, until you provide that information. Now, trust me, I've had this story even in South America. It happens. Um, and we're not used to this in the United States. Cops can't just pull you over and ask for your ID, at like a checkpoint where they just check every car. You can pull you over if you have an infraction or something and want your ID, but not just at like places along the highway. So in Nicaragua, I only got pulled over once, but I was within the city going to the beach, and it was my birthday, and the guy really wasn't about my immigration, because at that point you're already in the country. He was more about like just getting a little bit of, quick little payment, which was fine, no problem there. But when you got by the borders, there's a lot of these checkpoints, and they want everybody's ID. Even if you're Honduran, even if you're Nicaragua, they want to make sure, because again, you have to understand, Central America, especially right now, especially with the COVID, has a lot of immigration issues, no matter which direction you're going. So let me get to the point where I returned. So now, it was about 3 days ago, I had to return. So I decide, being so bright, I'm going to take the horse back around and just go into Honduras and check in like I was never in Nicaragua. Like, they'll never know I was here. I'm just coming across. Of course, when I get there, I do the COVID thing. Got all the tests done again in Nicaragua. Get into Honduras, and he starts going through my passport, and he's, I could see he starts like looking to his other partners in the immigration office behind the desk, and they start all talking, and right then I'm just sitting there, like, I knew what was happening. So I started to kind of act like I didn't understand Spanish very well, and they started asking me questions like, when did you check out of Nicaragua, because we can't find your Nicaraguan stamp in here. And I basically said, no sé, like, I don't know. I mean, it's probably in there. I don't know what they did. Maybe because of COVID, they didn't want to put it in there. And then, so they start talking 5-10 minutes. They ask me a few very basic questions. And then I get sent to the back room, which is like the head immigration officer at this border crossing on the Honduras side, mind you. He's kind of looking at me, and he's like, "Where's your flight? Like, what are you doing? Where have you been? Where are you planning on going? What's your reason for being down here?" All these questions. And then at first I started kind of giving them the runaround. Like, I don't know what they did. Like, I was in Nicaragua, and I was just there with my girlfriend, and everything seemed fine for me there. And he's like, "Look, here's the situation. You got to go back to Nicaragua. You have to spend 5 days there, get all your legal stamps. And then after 5 days, if you've done everything the right way, we'll let you back into the country, and you can go take your flight or whatever. But make sure you purchase your flight before." And that's the thing. I had to purchase flight, but then they canceled it. So then I had to purchase another, because with airlines these days, everything, travel's just, man, it's fucking hell. Anyways, so we get there. I travel across I go back to the Nicaragua, and I'm like in between the bridge, in between the countries. Like, I don't know if I should just run into the country in Honduras and go up to Guatemala and Mexico. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just walk to the U.S. Like, I don't know, because I can't go back to Nicaragua. They're going to know that I was here illegally for 5 months. And and who knows what they're gonna do. Like, they're not gonna be happy that I was there, and with the COVID. Eventually, I kind of paced back and forth on the bridge. I turned to Honduras, and English-speaking guy's like, "Look, go back. You're gonna pay a fine. Then they're gonna let you maybe stay there 5 days, come back, and whatever." I was like, "All right, I gotta just do this. I'm not going through more illegal days." So I go back to the Nicaraguan side. They start taking my papers. Again, the thing with Spanish right now is with these masks on, everything's muffled. Everything's hard to read your lips. It's like, especially when you're dealing with like immigration and police and shit. It's like, it's fun when you're talking with your friends at the local bar or something, but when you're talking with people with masks at the borders, it's almost like so difficult, especially for me. So basically, went back to the Nicaraguan side. They sat me down. They're like, "Dude, like, where have you been? What are you doing?" So they bring the little guy, brings the next jefe or the boss. That boss brings another boss. And by the end of it, they take my passport and all my information, and they're gone. I'm sitting on the curb for like 3 hours. Don't get me wrong, I'm not crying here, but like, I hadn't had water. I've been traveling all day. Central American sun is hot as can be. I hadn't eaten. I was just like, man, this just can't get any worse. Like, I don't care if they're gonna throw me in jail or something. I just need to go get some food and some water, more water. But anyways, he comes back and he's like, "Look, we talked to the Honduras side. We talked to after asking me a ton of questions again and all this stuff. We talked to both sides, and Honduras said they're gonna take you back. They're gonna give you 5 days to get out of the country, get a plane, and get out. So I go back now, walk into Honduras side after about 4 hours in the it's paused again. Let me reopen this. After about 4 hours of walking through the being stuck on the Honduras side, I walk back to the Nicaraguan side. Or I'm sorry, I walk back to the Honduras side. He kind of sees me out the window. He waves me in. I bought a bottle of water. I was feeling better. And he's like, we talked to them. Here's the situation. You're going to pay us a $200 fine, and you're going to purchase your ticket right now to leave the country, and you have 5 days to get to San Pedro Sula, which is on the very top of the country, and I'm on the southern border, to get your flight out. So I'm basically like, just thank you, whatever. I pay the fine. I messed up. I did this wrong. I did illegal. This is all my fault. I'm not blaming them or them. I'm actually pretty strict, like, understander of borders, especially with all these lockdowns. But basically, I pay the fine. Here's one more, is that I only had $180 on me. The fine was $200. So I'm like, dude, there's no ATM anywhere close to this border. I mean, there's not a lot of ATMs down here. So I pull out like half Honduras money, half Nicaraguan money, and $180, and like, even together with the Nica and the Honduran one, it didn't quite equal to it. It was maybe like $3-4 short. I was like, dude, it's this close. But it's a government payment. You can't really like go short on payments and fines. Anyways, he's just like, "Really, dude? Like, really? You got all?" I'm like, "Yeah, really." Like, I wasn't, I paid $50 for the police to get the horse across, and then I paid $20 to try to do it. If I would have just kind of maybe done things legally, I would have had more cash on me. But anyways, get in and pay the fine, and I have no money. A really, really nice Honduras guy, man. Thank you, brother. Gave me 45 pesos to grab a shuttle to the next big city where I could kind of regroup, get some food, get some, we'll go to the ATM, obviously, and get like a hotel and stuff. So I really appreciate that. I don't know what I would have done without that. I would have probably been walking to the next city or trying to hitchhike. I don't even want to think about it. So anyways, pay the fine. Here's one more part. Is as soon as I got into the Honduras side and got in the shuttle, there was 4 of these police checkpoints. 4 of them. And then there was 1 military checkpoint. And each one, they look at me like, "Hey, there's the gringo in the bus. Documents and paper and all this." The first one kind of gives me a little, he's like, "Well, these didn't sign all these right," or something. I'm like, "Dude, if you're asking for more money, like, they've took everything from me." Like, I have nothing on me. So I give him the sheet that basically shows that I paid the fine for illegal immigration laws or whatever. And he kind of let me go. But then the next 3 police checkpoints are pretty good. And then the last one was a military checkpoint. Their uniforms are different. One's military and one's police. And he actually was pretty good too. I got through it. Once I gave him the paper that showed that I paid the fine, I think they felt like He already, just paid 200 or 4,000 limpias down at which is a lot of money down here, to the immigration. So maybe we'll just kind of, let him ride this trip out till he can get somewhere. But don't enter countries illegally. It's stupid. It doesn't work. I'm not talking. This isn't about the U.S. and Mexican and Central America. This is more just Central America and even South America. I've had similar issues down there with just police checkpoints and stuff. I mean, they're very tight on their immigration here, whether you want to believe it or not. I mean, yeah, you see the caravans and stuff, but a lot of that's coming to an end. Like they've enforced their borders a lot stricter. And yeah, you can find horses and people doing stuff illegally around the system. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to come to these countries and you want to enjoy what they have to offer, and you don't want to end up being in a position where you could get yourself in trouble or be banned from never being able to come back or whatever your situation, just take things the right way. That's my recommendation. That's my story. That's what happened to me being in Nicaragua 5 months later. It could have been worse. It could have been better. Maybe he had never saw the stamp and I would have just been on my way. That would have been ideal. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. I paid a heavy price. And with that being said, as a patriotic gringo, headed back to Miami for the next month to catch up on some work and move my car and apartment, all these things I have been neglecting living my life down here. But if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Let's hear your experiences with the border. Like, subscribe. That stuff helps. We're trying to build this up. And catch you in the next video. Peace.